Okay, now this is going to be really quick because I know how sore and numb your bottoms must be feeling right now. It's traditional for any Brits on this stage to parade their Irish credentials. I'm now sporting a new beard, which my mother tells me reminds her of Gerry Adams. I don't know whether that's good or bad. My dad's from Portadown, and his legs get very twitchy every July, so maybe she doesn't think it's a good idea. But apart from that, we're in a very similar place. Our markets are very closely aligned. We're going through similar sorts of troubles, and I'm here to share. Now, I don't know if this is happening to you right now. It may have happened already, but this is what happened to us in the UK. Question, what happened in the UK to radio revenue when digital really started to take off? And it took off when ADSL broadband services really became big. And between 2004, 2007, this is what happened in Radioland. All of those campaigns that were spending around about £100,000 a year or more on radio, they started to fall off. And we were seeing the amount of churn in terms of brands spending that kind of money doubling year on year, which was incredibly scary. Our biggest clients were falling out of bed with us. That had to stop. And when we asked around, we discovered that a lot of the damage, a lot of the ornaments being knocked off the mantelpiece were because of digital. Now, there were two big issues that the advertisers and the media people had with radio. One was about creativity. That wasn't so closely related to digital because, let's face it, the creative on digital is still crap, let's be honest. What they were more concerned about was this thing, accountability. You've seen all the numbers. You can measure every last click on digital, and media agencies love it. And basically that just raised expectations for traditional media. They were being asked by the people who were getting really into buying digital, we want the numbers, you haven't got the numbers. And sometimes we kind of got the feeling that digital was being chosen because it was more measurable than perhaps it being the right solution for the brand job on the table. So what we did in radio was several things, but we discovered that we had to get closer to our clients, and RadioGAUGE turned out to be the answer. RadioGAUGE allowed us to measure the effectiveness of campaigns, and we've done that now for over 600 since 2008. That meant 600 advertisers were feeling the love from radio at a time when it was more important than at any other point since the early 90s when the medium really took off. If we hadn't have done this with RadioGAUGE and got really close to advertisers and showed them and the agencies that radio advertising still worked, it still delivered the frequency, the efficiency, the awareness and the branding gains that you would expect from any advertising campaign, if we hadn't have kept pressing that button hard, I think we'd be a lot closer to the experience that press is going through right now, because they've taken a bath, and you can see it happening here in the Republic too. Now, since then, the pendulum's starting to swing back. I think, you know, the fires of love burn really brightly when a new flame comes on the scene, and I think it was like that for the agencies with digital, but something that hot can't burn for that long. And I think people are starting to calm down a little bit more and understand that digital now has to work with some of the traditional media that everyone kind of got bored with for a while. And this is probably my best bit of evidence for that. Something that my company Dollywagon did with Mark's team at the RAB in London was try and understand whether radio contributes to making online advertising more effective. And this has been mentioned a couple of times now. And what we did was we took a sample of people who very kindly agreed to give us their web browsing histories off their computers and fill out a survey for us as well about their ad listening. Cross-tabulated all that back against ad schedules, and what we found is when people had been listening to the radio, very often they'd end up browsing for something they just heard an ad for. In fact, the uplift on average over 23 campaigns that we managed to detect information for was 52%. So talking about making your radio station more discoverable was something that I heard earlier today. Isn't it odd, though, that radio is now being thought of, at least in the UK, as making web advertising and digital brands more discoverable? And I think that's incredibly significant. So there's a real strong reason to feel positive that if we're going to go and talk to the digital people, we've got a very strong story to tell, and it starts kind of here. Something else which I think is really interesting, which is very recent, another company I run called Colour Text has been working with Twitter. We work with Twitter directly, but also we've been doing work with Facebook data as well. And what we've discovered is that a lot of stuff that people talk about on social networks tends to be about stuff they're either watching on the TV or they're listening to on the radio. So if you're ever worried that it looks old-fashioned because you work in radio, or that your ad agency is thinking that they can't really sell in radio as a platform any longer, why don't we just remember that digital natives are absolutely crazy about radio? This is just using the official Facebook page data and the official Twitter accounts for 6 radio stations, plucked more or less at random from Twitter and from Facebook. And you can see the sheer volume of messages that people are issuing on those 2 networks about what they've just heard on the radio. It's phenomenal. The numbers are huge. Only TV channels beat this level of traffic. And we can do more than that. We can actually analyse what people are actually talking about when they're using a radio station with a mobile phone or a social network. And the kind of stuff they end up talking about are things like opinions. They express an opinion about something they've just heard. People love to share what they think about those sorts of things. They're talking about the music, and they're expressing emotions. They're making lots of requests. And they're just telling other people, I'm listening to this right now. It's fantastic. We can break it down further, and overall what we're finding is that when it comes to that kind of collision between radio and social media for a true digital native, people are using social media to broadcast those punch the air or punch the cushion moments that they feel when they hear something fantastic or provoking on the radio. And I think it's a fantastic testimony that even though there is so much that these people can be doing with those digital devices, what they're choosing to do is communicate with everyone in their social network about what a great time they're having while they're listening to radio. And as you can see here, the predominant emotions that people express are about what a great time they're having, they're liking or they're enjoying something, and that they're having fun and that they're laughing. If you look down number 3, a very distant third are people actually expressing disappointment. So there's a lot of reasons why the iPod never killed radio. There's a lot of reasons why the internet isn't going to kill radio either. And it shouldn't kill radio when it comes down to the division of spend at the media agency level. Radio makes people happy, and it does it in a way that no other medium can fulfill yet. And I think that's a real cause for optimism. So if that gives you any degree of buoyancy, I hope it does. If you're interested to know more about how we've tackled these issues in the UK, you can come and see me directly, or you can get hold of me through Lisa at the RBI. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks very much.